Good morning, class. This is Mr. Clovis, and this is your GarageBand tutorial for the 21st Century Multidisciplinary Unit. Now, before we get started with GarageBand, I just want to look at a couple things. First being musical styles. Now, it's important to recognize different musical styles because these musical styles will help lead the feel and the sense of motion with your motion pictures. Now, we have jazz, rock and roll, techno, hip hop, country, new age. Now this is just to name a few, not all of the musical styles, but it's important to have these in your bank in your academic literacy when looking at this project. You want to make sure you know what you're going to use and what that feeling is going to have on your project. Now I'm not going to read through all these different styles, but what I do want you to do is go to the classroom and take a look at the PowerPoint that I've attached, and you can talk and look more at those musical styles. Now, I've also included on that PowerPoint some examples of different types of music soundtracks from different movies. Now, these will be really helpful in terms of guiding the sound for your movie. Finally, during this presentation, what I want you to think about is finding a genre or style that fits your movie. What is that going to be? What is your why for your movie? What key signature will you use to create your soundtrack? Key signature, time signature, number of loops, all these types of things I want you to be thinking about when you are thinking today and listening to this presentation. How long is the movie? You don't want to have a soundtrack that is not long enough for the length of your movie or perhaps too long. And finally, how many of the tracks will be original content? Like we talked about before, we need 5 tracks. 4 of them can be used loops and 1 of them can be original content. However, if you are so inclined, you may wish to add more loops. Moving on, let's take a look at GarageBand. Now this is something I was working on before, so I'm just going to close this. Now when you open up GarageBand, this empty project is going to come up. You're going to click on this empty project. You're going to click Choose. Now there's software instrument, audio, drummer. For our case, for this project, we're going to go click on here, record using a microphone. Now your options are going to come up. Now for our project, the biggest thing you need to use is loops over here. So we're going to click over here on this little button that looks like a loop. Now, when you see this come up, you're going to see a lot of different things, and it's going to be a little overwhelming. But let me tell you first, to this area down here, don't worry about that. The 2 areas you need to worry about are this area over here in terms of the loops, and this area over here in terms of the tracks. Now, looking up here, we see our key signature. Now, key signature and time signature are important because they really help guide the sound of the soundtrack. If it is a major key, right, it's going to be more happy, more upbeat. You know, that type of movie, maybe an action film. If it is in a minor key, a little bit sadder, scarier, maybe for your horror films. So it's really important that you and your group decide on that key before starting this project, because this is really going to help guide your sound, okay? The tempo is the speed of which you're going to go, and that will guide how fast the different loops that come onto your screen are. Now that we know that, we can start looking at loops. So this is our loop pack. And this is all the different types of genres. So for today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at disco funk. Now, as you can see, these beats are the number of beats in a measure. So if we have 4/4, that means there are 4 quarter notes or 4 beats per measure. So if you have 8 beats, that equals 2 measures. 16 beats, 4 measures, and so on. So we want to make sure the amount of measures equals the amount of time that you are looking for in terms of your soundtrack. And we'll talk more about that later on in the semester, but for now, just important to know. So we're going to add our first beat over here. Okay, so this is what it sounds like. Okay, good introduction. Now let's add a little something else. A little bass. Okay, now we have 1 track, so we're going to add another track because we want there to be at least 5 tracks. Now, again, this little section will come over here. You go back to the loops, and then you add a different loop. So let's add Disco Delight Electric Piano, see what that sounds like. So here's what we have so far. Ah. Now, what's great about GarageBand is that since you have the key and the time signature in there, it's going to all work together. The keys are not going to be an issue, so you're not going to have to worry about something being a major minor mixing. Okay, that's really important because you want it to sound good. That's what's great about GarageBand. I recommend doing a little bit of exploring before you start actually creating so that when it comes time for your final product, it looks and sounds the way you want it to. Now, when adding the original content, you're going to press the add button. Same thing again, create. And now this little area will come up and you can see right here is my microphone is making this peak. This is where you're going to add either using a microphone like your normal speakers, or you could actually use a real microphone and put in electric guitar, piano, voice, trombone, trumpet, whatever your original content is going to be. And that's where you would put that. Now, again, it looks more challenging than it really is. It is very simple and it's very user-friendly. I recommend taking a look at it, exploring, but just really worry about the tracks, this little library over here in terms of original content, and then over here in terms of loops. That's all you need for this project. Now, I hope that this lesson has been helpful. Remember, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. This PowerPoint and this presentation will be available on our Google Classroom. Thank you very much and have a great day.